my name is Nathan Wells. I'm excited today to talk to you about OneNote and OneNote Class Notebook and organizing your teaching and learning content. This is a series that we're bringing to you from I2E. I2E is an education consultancy company that helps with training around the world and works with edtech companies to make sure that they can bring the right message to teachers like you. I'm the Senior Manager of Customer Engagement. You can find me at EdTechWells on Twitter. I2E.edu, you can find out more about us. And also, this is specifically a session focused on the Microsoft content, and you can find out more and follow Microsoft EDU on Twitter and Facebook and other socials. So today we're going to focus on kind of what is OneNote quickly, the organization of OneNote Class Notebook, how are you working with that in Microsoft Teams, because they work really well together. So what does that look like? And focus mostly on these organizations. So how are these organized? How can you work with OneNote Class Notebook? How can you help your students stay organized? What are just some basic organizational tips and strategies when you're using OneNote, and specifically OneNote Class Notebook? Those are what we're going to spend our time on today. So to start with, though, let's make sure we're on the same page. What is OneNote? The easiest way to describe OneNote is a digital 3-ring binder. This analogy has been used a lot, but it works really well for OneNote. The idea of OneNote is it's a place to take notes, right? It's a note-taking tool at its kind of very basic level, and it's organized in the same fashion that we would have organized our Trapper Keepers in junior high or whatever. You have sections. So when you opened up your Trapper Keeper, your 3-ring binder, you would have these tabs. So tabs in OneNote are called sections. And when you click on a section, it's like you're flipping open that tab within your notebook, and you see all the individual pages. And so we have all of these pages. Now the next layer of that is actually our sections can be grouped as well. And that's when we talk about OneNote Class Notebook. I'll go into that a little bit further, but if you think of our sections actually have like folders within them. And so those folders are actually sections within a section group. So we have a group, we're going to open up social studies, and inside social studies we have folders that are within each unit, and within each folder I have pages that go with that unit. So I'll break that down a little bit more, but that's kind of the basic idea. The nice thing is that OneNote nowadays looks the same no matter what you're on. So you could be in a web browser, you could be on a tablet, you could be on an iPhone or Android, you can be in your Windows 10 device, and with the Windows 10 app, and you're using the web browser, you're using the same program. You have pretty much the same options. I will mention a couple things that I recommend you do primarily in the Windows 10 app or in the older desktop version that you can still download versus the web or in Teams or on a mobile. But there are advantages to each platform. But the main idea is you're going to have pretty much the same experience whether you open it up on a mobile device or in the Windows 10 app. And the nice thing to remember about that is when you're trying to show something you want students to remember or to see or to do later, it doesn't matter which version they open, the layout's going to be enough the same that they're going to know what to look for. So that's huge. When we try to explain things to students, they look in their device and it looks different, and there's confusion. It just adds to the cognitive load that a student has to worry about, instead of just being able to go right to where you showed them originally, or you made a tutorial video, or you took a screenshot, or whatever it is, and then students aren't sure what to do with it. So good thing to remember about OneNote. So let's break it down a little bit more. Specifically, thinking about OneNote Class Notebook. So you notice on the left-hand side of the screen, I have my sections and pages. Specifically, the far left, I have my sections and section groups I mentioned. So for instance, I have my sections across here that are my section groups. This one's called the collaboration space. Collaboration space, content library, teacher only, and then my individual student notebooks. These 4 section groups are unique to a class notebook. If I open up a free Microsoft account, just go to Outlook.com or open up a free Microsoft account, go to Office.com and create an account, I can use OneNote for free. but it won't have these 4 section groups by default. It'll have more of just these basic tabs that are our basic sections. And so I use them in my personal life, and I have them for all different sections and things I want to keep notes of, and things for my family and vacations and shopping lists and all that kind of stuff. And those work great. But specifically in OneNote Class Notebook, you see the tab at the top of the screen we're going to use in a minute, it by default creates these 4 unique sections. The other thing I'm going to come back to is we're going to go through each of these sections individually and kind of what are their purposes and what's unique about them. The other thing we're going to talk about is some organization tips that you should already notice on this page. And when I say page, you notice in this next column here, these are my 3 pages that are within the green section called samples. On this page, I have a table where my students can fill in who's the author and what their topic is. And it has something called checkboxes. And you can physically check them. So when you click on them, it'll actually put a little X in there and mark it off. I have some other things in here that we're going to come back to. But I just wanted to point out kind of this main overview page of how this works together. Kind of some organizational pieces you can be thinking about as we go through. All right, so I mentioned the collaboration space. The unique thing about each of these sections that I've mentioned is they have unique properties built into them. So collaboration space, if you could think just exactly what it says, this space is for collaboration. So the default is that anybody that's in this notebook, and if we're talking about our OneNote class notebook in teams, it would be everybody that's in that team would automatically have access to this. We'll show that in a second. And everybody that has access to the OneNote class notebook would have ability to edit the collaboration space. So I can create tables, as in this example. I can create teams. I can create small groups. And each group is responsible for a certain page or for a certain section even. I could do the sections by group if I wanted to, if I had a longer research project or some same group is going to come back and use the same thing over and over again. I could do that. In this example, I use tables. So you could phrase it however you want. If you're in remote learning, you may not want to use the word table. That probably wouldn't make as much sense. But you could use tables. You could use groups. You could have them pick team names, right? You could open that up. And within that, students that are in this first group can come in this page, and all of them can edit. All of them can work on this page. And when you're working in OneNote, there are a lot of options of how I want to put down my thoughts, how I want to work on this page. We call that multimodal, meaning our students can use text, they can use their keyboard and type. It has drawing tools, so you can see the menu up here, it has drawing tools. So just like I'm annotating on this slide, students can annotate right on the page. Under Insert, we're going to look in a minute, but there is an audio option. So students can just record their voice, and that could be their notes. You, as the teacher, can also go in and leave a recording of your voice as feedback. So we'll come back to that in a moment as well. I want you to also notice that, again, on this page, I'm using tables. Tables are a great way to organize OneNote pages. Specifically, when I want different students working on the page, it's easier to have each row in the table be specific to a student. Or in this case, maybe I have different students working together in this small group, and they're each talking about a different topic. So I want them to list their topic and the things that go with that in a row. The good and the bad thing about OneNote is it's kind of like an open whiteboard. It's an endless whiteboard. It's an endless space. I can write anywhere on the page. I can create a new text box just by double-clicking anywhere on the page, which makes it super easy and convenient for leaving notes wherever it makes sense. But that also leaves room for disorganization. So we want to give students a confined space, a defined space, I should say, where students can go in and work. And in this case, because it's a collaboration space, where I specifically want them to work together. And so giving those confines of what is their space and what is somebody else's space. The second group of workspace is called the content area, the content library. The content library, again, it has a unique set of permissions that's built into OneNote Class Notebook. This one is specifically, if you think of the word library, this is something that the students are going to come to and they're going to view, they're going to read, they're going to find things, they're going to look at what you've provided for them, but it's not theirs. Just like a library, you check out a book, you have to give it back. The same idea here is that students can come here, they can copy things off of a page, they can click on a link, they can view what's here, but it's not theirs, they don't own it. And the default is it's view only for students. Owners of the OneNote class notebook are the ones that can add to this page, make changes to this page, remove things from these pages, and even the sections within the pages, like science and resources in this example. But each of these pages are only view only for the students. Can't move them, can't delete them, can't add to them. So in this example, in the content library, the students will find a page under the life cycle of a tree frog with some tasks. But students can't write on this page. So they're either going to have to make a copy of this page, or maybe it's something the teacher's wanting them to go and just write on their own. So that's a unique part about the content library. Now the third area that's unique to OneNote class notebook and staff notebook, if you're familiar with that, it's just the PLC version, if you would. The teacher-only space, students don't even know it exists unless you show it to them when you're sharing your screen. This teacher-only section is kind of what it sounds like. This is only accessible by the owner of the class notebook, or the owner of the team that has a class notebook in it. And in here, the teacher, could be co-teachers, but whoever is the owner of this notebook will see this space, be able to work in this space, and students won't know it's there. What I always recommend for the teacher-only space is a great spot to be preparing lessons. It's a great spot to be kind of putting things together, but it can also be a great spot for teachers to just keep simple notes about what's going on in class, notes to keep themselves organized. You can see in this example, the teacher is starting to create something that they're working on. You see in the sections called In Progress. So the teacher's working on this. It's not ready to give to students yet. And it's a project called My Future Self. It has a checkbox, so students are going to have things that they need to check off as they get done. This is a link out to a web page, but here's a unique thing. It has a sway embedded in the page. So one of the advantages of OneNote in general is that you can embed quite a few experiences like videos and Sway and Flipgrid and others. You can embed them right on the page so students don't have to leave the notebook. I could have them go through this Sway and I could have a Microsoft form embedded. And then I have a form right there on the page they have to fill out. Or maybe as they're going through the Sway, which is embedded right here on the page, they don't leave the OneNote. They're making notes out to the right side because, again, this is an open space, so students could be writing notes out on the side as they're viewing the Sway. You could also embed an Excel worksheet, a PowerPoint. So as they're going through the slides, as they're looking through the data, they can be taking their notes right there on the page. So again, how do we organize students? How do we help students find ways to keep themselves organized and they're not jumping into different places? They're staying in one place where we're helping define what they need to be doing and giving them the space to be creative and to work through things, but it's all in one area. So we have the collaboration space, we have the content library, and we have the teacher-only space. Now in each of these, you can use them obviously from what we've said for different purposes, and hopefully you've gotten a feel for what each of them really serve. The other space we haven't really talked about yet is the student space, and we have a better example back here where you notice Ernie's space down here has by default 3 sections within it. Handouts, class notes, and homework. I think one of the other defaults is called quizzes. And you can change the name of those. You can take away, as in this one's only 3. I think the default's usually 4. You can take those away. You can add to them. You can change the names of them. So as you're developing materials, one of the ways you can organize your class notebook is by pushing things, or the class notebook word it uses is distribute. I can distribute those pages directly to the individual student sections. So then the students get their own copy. So Ernie can be working on his, Liz can be working on hers, Sophia can be working on hers, and they can all be working on their own pages, and they don't see each other's. So we're going to pop out and look at that in a second. but I wanted to mention that as we're going through. Content library, teacher-only space. Now, all of this also works inside of Microsoft Teams. And the unique thing about working in Microsoft Teams is it brings a couple of advantages. It brings a couple of specific things that help Class Notebook go one step further. So we already have some great features, but let's take it a step further. In Class Notebook built within a team, and it's specific to a class team, so if you're creating your Microsoft team, you want to make sure it's a class team. Then by default, it'll have a Class Notebook. If you create a staff team, it'll by default have a staff notebook. And if you create just a general team, it will not have any of those, but it'll allow you to put in a OneNote, just for a quick overview. So you can see here I'm in my Microsoft team. I have a class just called Mr. Wells. And in here, I clicked on Class Notebook. And in here, you can see pretty much what we just saw a moment ago. So in here, there's a couple of unique things. One is when I'm in one of my teams, I have three basic places across the top. And you can use OneNote Class Notebook pages in assignments. So I'm actually going to jump into Microsoft Teams real quick, and we're going to look at this in my team. So I'm going to, in my team, see that I'm in the general channel, and that is important. You'll see in the general channel, the default is these first five. I have posts, files, assignments, Class Notebook, and grades. So Class Notebook is kind of the middle one. Now you notice I've added some extras here. I've added some other tabs, and you can click the plus and add more tabs. And if you want to look through our Microsoft Teams specific videos, we'll talk about adding tabs and the benefits of that. So right now, though, if my team was just created, I would see post files, Class Notebook, assignments, and grades. When I click on Class Notebook, it's going to open up just like that same field that we had before. I'm going to expand it in the top right so I can see all of it better. And again, I have those same areas I saw before. So collaboration space, and I have each of my units listed in here. And let me draw attention to where that came from. You notice each of these units are right here as Teams channels. And that's one of the unique things about using OneNote Class Notebook in Teams is anytime I create a channel, it's going to add that space to my collaboration. So remember, what is a collaboration space? It is a space that any student that's in the team in the Class Notebook come in and work in. So if I go into Unit 1, Channel, in Microsoft Teams, I can click Notes, and that is going to bring up that section I was just in. So it links in each channel, links into your OneNote Class Notebook. It just says in the tab Notes, but no, when I go to my General Channel, Class Notebook, I'll make it bigger so we can see it easier, and go to my sections, there it is again, under Collaboration Space, Unit 1 Notes. And I could name this, so this is our Unit 1 discussion. And this could be a spot where students are able to add in things. And again, if I'm working with groups of students, I'm going to usually add in a table. And in here, it makes it easier to have students going through, so I'm going to ask them to put their name first. So again, when you're organizing your OneNote Class Notebook pages, I recommend if you're wanting students to work on the same space, define what that space is for. So this is going to be for their name, and in this one, I want them to put in their opinion, depending on what we're talking about in class. Now the table will expand as you type, but I usually will go ahead and expand it out just so students feel like they have the space. They have the permission to use that space. The bigger the box, the more they're likely to type it in it. So I could even sometimes just go in and put in some extra marks. So I'm going to make this table a little bit bigger so we can fit all of our kids in the class. There we go. So every student feels like they have a space, and I could even number them if that helped. Now remember, the other thing about our notebook is we said we could give them checkboxes to check off. So one of the ways, I'm going to go insert, I'm actually going to insert one more row here. So I can put in to do, kind of like the Microsoft To Do app. I could put check when done, right? So maybe that's something I want to put in there. And then I can highlight these boxes. So I'm just left clicking and dragging, and I went too far. Try that again. There we go. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Okay. So now that I've highlighted just the ones in that row, I can go back to home, and I can click tags and to do. Now you notice there's lots of other tags. There's lots of other default things built into OneNote class, or OneNote in general, that I can use to define an area, to bring attention to something. My favorite is to do. So I added that to do box. So now as I go through, I can be typing my name. I can be working on my opinion. Maybe I need to come back. So I'm not going to check that yet. But as I finish, I can come through and I can check that off. So there's a little red check. So it's a quick visual that I've completed that step. And I love that example that was in the slideshow of all the different steps that the student needed to have. And as they finish them, they could be checking those off. So it's a quick visual for the teacher to see where the student thinks they are. But it's also a quick visual for the student to see where they are, which is really helpful as well. All right, so I'm worked in this. I'm in Unit 1, and I just wanted to show real quick. I'm in the main class notebook area under collaboration space. If I go to Unit 1 in the channel and click Notes, I'm going to see the exact same thing. So it doesn't matter if I go through the channel to get to the class notebook collaboration space that's specific to that one, or if I go through General and click Class Notebook. It's the same spot. And again, this is open up the section. You can see I'm in the collaboration space, Unit 1. Okay. So that's a collaboration space. It's a space for students to work, space for students to interact with the teacher, ask questions, build things together. Content library we mentioned before, but just quickly, the content library is where we're working together. It's where the teacher is posting things that they want the students to see. So as they were reading a story together, the teacher snapped a picture of a text, pops it into the content library, so every student has access to it, right? But the students don't need to do anything with this. They just need to see it. So the teacher put it in here, and now, because the teacher knows every student has it in front of them on the screen, they could ask questions about it. They can work through that together. They can use it as a discussion prompt, and teacher can reference, look at the book snap in the content library for our discussion today, or something like that. Again, teacher-only space. This is where the teacher could be working on something, could be getting things ready for class, and then the students have their own section. And the teacher can see in each student section, but the students only see their own. They don't even know the other students' sections are in there. So we have each of the student sections, and the students could be working in here, and the teacher could be dividing it up in different ways. And when I go to the homework section, I assign this photosynthesis page to students, and I've distributed it. I'll show you that in a second. And the student's done a sketch here of how photosynthesis works. Or maybe the teacher did the sketch, and now the students need to write about what they saw, or anything like that. So let's talk quickly how I did that. So I'm going to use the teacher-only section as the example. Actually, I'm going to use the content library as the example. So let's go back to that book snack. Let's say I want students to mark this text. I don't want them just to read it in the content library. I actually want to use it as something they're going to be marking the text with. So I'm going to go to the class notebook section, and very simply, I'm going to click Distribute Page. And if I click Distribute Page again, it's going to go to every student. If I want different sets of text to go to different students, I can either click on Individual and pick one student, or Groups. So I can have different groups. Maybe we're going to jigsaw this up, and so I'm going to put different pages that I'm going to send out to different groups, right? So I could do that and send it to different groups very quickly and easily. Cross notebook just means I'm going to send it to more than one class at a time, or more than one notebook at a time. For this example, I'm just going to quickly do Distribute Page. I get the Distribute Page panel on the right-hand side. Where do I want students to see this? So I'm going to put it in Homework again, and I'm going to click Distribute. So it takes a second to push it out through the internet, right, to each of the students. But then once it's done with that, and you can see it's getting going here. Once it's done with that, each student can individually go into their pages, and they could be marking the text and leaving notes. And then this teacher can go through and view what each student has done. So for this example, I'm going to go back to the student, click on Homework, and to see the new page came through. And a good rule of thumb is you have students leave the title alone. And the reason for that is when I go to review it, If it's not the same title, it takes me longer to figure out where students have put it. So a good kind of organizational strategy, classroom management procedures is to tell students to leave the titles alone when you distribute pages, and then they can just put their name on the page. But you as a teacher will also, I'll show you in a second when we review it, you'll also know who it is based on what you see on the page. So let's say the student is marking the text, so they're going through, they're highlighting certain areas, they're underlining or marking, maybe they're leaving notes out to the side, right? So they're working in this page as they go. The next student also has access to the same pages, right? So they can, there's the BookSnap page on theirs. So they can be doing the same thing. So they're using a red pen and they're underlining certain things. They're talking about, they're leaving notes out to the side. And so each student is working on these pages. So let's say as a teacher, I want to quickly review what students are doing. Again, I'm going to go to Class Notebook, but this time I'm going to click in the middle, Review Student Work. And it says, well, where is the work you want to review? I'm going to click Homework. Here's where the naming is important. If students change the names of the title, I'm going to have a whole bunch more listed here than just the 3 that's there. So I'm going to have a whole lot more there. So because they're all named the same, I can click that and click Next, and I can just jump between the students. So this is why I said I can see which student did what without them putting their name in it. So there's student 1. I could leave a note for them. So I mentioned before, insert, and then on the page, let me get off the draw. On the page, I can click and I can leave notes for the students. Here's where I was talking about where I can leave audio. So I can leave an audio recording where I'm telling students, hey, great job, this is what you can work on different, maybe leave a note for this, and then I click stop, and now there's a little audio recording. So the students can actually hear my feedback instead of me just writing something on the page. Just built in, really quick and simple. I can put in stickers, which are always really kind of fun and cute, and emojis and quick little things on the page for students, or I can use Draw as well. So I can quickly jump between the different students and leave feedback and ask them, you know, try this, have you thought of this, go a little bit deeper here, and I can go through. When I'm done, I can page lock, which means students can't do any more work. Let's say I didn't want students to add on to that. I can do that really quickly. So as we think about organizing and working a OneNote class notebook, we're wanting students to work in here. We're wanting to make it as easy as possible for students to continue through this. So we're going to add in tables. We're going to distribute pages. We're going to give checkboxes to things that students can keep track of, can mark off as they go. And we're going to try to keep students all in one place. So we're going to embed things like Microsoft Form or Sway or Flipgrid or others in the pages, and we'll keep them all in one place. And when we use it in Microsoft Teams, they're able to, even as they're working in different channels, have those note sections right there together. So it keeps everything in one place. You have this defined organization built right in, and it makes it a lot easier for students to participate and to keep going with what they need to do. We mentioned assignments. So the other thing in Teams, so you have your class notebook and assignments. When I go into an assignment, I can choose as the resource I want to push out to students. I'm going to give them their own copy. I can use class notebook. The advantage with that is that it allows students to get a notification that there's something they need to be working on. And the default in OneNote class notebook is they're not like a push notification. It's only if they look at it, they'll see that this section's bolded. So some things for you to try. Next, create your OneNote class notebook in Teams. If you don't have a class team already created, that's the first step. But if you do, open up your OneNote class notebook in that class. Try to see what's in there. How are you going to organize it? How are you going to use the collaboration space, the content library, and the teacher-only section? What are you going to distribute to students? What are things you're currently doing, already using, that would be easier if you had a way to just quickly distribute it to students and they could start marking it up in OneNote and you could quickly review that. Leave some relevant feedback. Help students understand why they need to do something different. We encourage you to go to education.microsoft.com. There are many more courses and videos listed there where you can go through and go deeper into OneNote and OneNote Class Notebook and Teams. We would also ask if you're interested in EdTech news and staying up to date and hearing from educators around the world, you can register for our Insights newsletter at register.i2edu.com/news. Appreciate your time today. Thank you for joining me. Appreciate you being with us. If you want to learn more about using Microsoft Teams, we encourage you to watch the next video on building community in Teams meetings. Thank you. Have a great day and be safe.